In this video, we'll look at the concept of workspaces, where to find them, how to access them, and how to import, export, and send them via email to another user. A workspace, as you see right here in front of you, is a configuration of settings that specifies how the various toolbars, menus, and buttons are arranged when you yourself are using the application. So you can create your own personal workspaces that suit your needs, or a workspace that helps you complete certain tasks. Let's start off with how do you access them. I'm going to move to my Tools menu, and there I'm going to click on Options. On the left side, you'll notice the word Workspace. Go ahead and click on that. And then you'll see the 3 workspaces that come preset in the box. The first one, the default, is the X3 workspace. The one just above it, Microsoft Office, and the one above it, Adobe Illustrator. Let's put a check next to Adobe Illustrator so we can see exactly what happens. And keep your eye on the user interface right behind this dialog box. Notice a lot of things changed. This is the perfect tool for someone who may be migrating from Adobe or someone who uses both applications. Let's say I was an Adobe Illustrator user and I was very comfortable using Illustrator. And now I'm being asked to use Corel Draw. Well, my comfort level is in Illustrator. So if there was a way to make Corel Draw look and feel a little bit more like Illustrator, I'd be more apt to use it and more apt to use it effectively. So by switching my workspace to Adobe Illustrator, I'm in a more familiar environment for me. If I were to click OK, I could work within that environment moving forward. All the tools that are typically available in Corel Draw are still available from this view. It's just a change from the toolbars and dockers and menus, but it's more familiar to Illustrator users. The same can be said for Microsoft Office. If we click on the check mark there, the user interface will change again. Toolbars are in a more familiar place, especially to Microsoft Office users. So now that you know how to access them, why don't we just go ahead and click OK on the Microsoft Office workspace. And now we're ready to work. So we have our scrapbook here on the right side. And just like in Microsoft Word, our graphics toolbars right here along the bottom. So this is a way to make us feel more comfortable in the application, especially if we're used to using Microsoft Word. Well, let's say we want to create our own workspace. That's what I'm about to do right now. I'm going to customize the user interface that's currently on screen to my liking, save it as a new workspace, and then we'll take it one step further. We're going to export it out. And then we're going to email it out, and then I'm going to show you how you can import workspaces that someone else may have created. So let's start customizing what we see here on screen and create our first workspace. So one thing I know I prefer is to have floating dockers. So you can see here I have 3 dockers contained in this roll-up. I'm going to pull one out, pull out the other one, and now we have 3 dockers that are floating. I'd like to roll them up. You click on this little arrow here, and that rolls them up. So that's my preference. I like them floating like this in a rolled up capacity. As well, I'm not a huge fan of having my toolbox down there. I prefer it right here for me ready to use. And last but not least, I have my zoom toolbar here, which I prefer to put right over here. And I want to shrink that down to about that size. Now, this is the way I prefer to work. So I'm going to return to my tools menu and move down to options. And you'll notice that options is now located at the bottom of the tools menu. Keep in mind, we're working in the Microsoft Office workspace, so there's been changes to the menus. I'm going to click on options. And here, I'm going to click on new. They want me to name the workspace. I'm going to call this Mark's Workspace. And it's based on the Microsoft Office workspace. That's fine. And if I wanted, I could punch in a description of the workspace. I'll click OK. You'll notice that it's added right up here, Mark's Workspace. I'll click OK. And now I have it saved exactly the way I want to use it. Well, let's take it one step further now. I'm going to move back to my Tools menu, click on Options, and I want to export this. So let's say I have another computer in another location and I want to have this workspace accessible there as well. Well, I can export it. I'll click on the Export button here, and it gives me a couple of options. This is asking me, are these all the things, all the features or objects I want to export? For example, Docker placement, how my menus are currently set up, shortcut keys I may have customized, status bar and toolbars. I want them all, so I'm going to check them all off. And from here, I can either save, which will take me to my desktop or my hard drive where I could save the file to export, or I can click on email. If I click on email, what it's going to automatically do is launch an email, depending on the package you're using, and it's attached the files, an XSLT file, and you'll also see here a little message that's included. Please find attached a custom Corel Draw 13 workspace, and you can see exactly that. It's just trying to let the person know who's receiving the file what it is exactly that they're getting. So I'm going to close out of that. Actually, I'm going to save this to my hard drive. I'm going to select my desktop, and I'm going to save it as Mark WS for workspace and click save. So now I've exported the workspace. I'm going to click close and OK. So now to reverse the process we just went through, let's say I'm on my computer here and I want to import a workspace that someone else has sent me. I'm going to return to my tools menu, click options, and before I import it, I'm just going to switch it back to the default so we can see the change. And I'm going to click on import. Here it's asking me to browse for the file. So I'll click on the browse button. I'm on my desktop, and there it is, markws.xslt. Click open, next, and now it's asking me which items do I want to import. So I have complete control over the customizations that were made to that workspace, and if I only want the menu bar and maybe some of the dockers and nothing else, I can deselect many of these items. I'm going to leave them all selected and click next. Do I want to select it as my current workspace or a new workspace? I'm going to say new. Click next. I can name it. I'm going to name this one Lucky UWS. Click next and click finish. And now you're going to notice a new one appear here, Lucky UWS, and it's based on the one that I imported. I'm just going to click OK on that. And that concludes this video on working with workspaces. In the next video, we're going to look at customizing your user interface, specifically your toolbars and your menus in Corel Draw X4.